Sophia Bennett spent most nights pretending exhaustion did not exist. Inside the towering black glass walls of the Bellerose Hotel in Manhattan, appearances mattered more than truth. Wealthy people paid enormous amounts of money to believe perfection surrounded them, and Sophia had become an expert at hiding her collapsing life beneath polished professionalism. Her dark uniform remained perfectly pressed even when her body felt too heavy to stand. Her smile stayed controlled even when collection notices waited unanswered inside her apartment mailbox. Every movement inside the hotel required elegance, calmness, and silence. Nobody inside the Bellerose cared that Sophia's younger sister Layla needed expensive medical treatment every month. Nobody cared that Sophia worked 16-hour shifts while secretly selling old family belongings online to survive. The wealthy guests only noticed whether their champagne arrived cold enough or whether the ballroom lighting reflected perfectly against crystal chandeliers. That night, the hotel looked less like a business and more like a palace built for dangerous kings. Golden lights reflected across black marble floors while politicians, celebrities, and billionaire businessmen filled the massive grand ballroom. Expensive perfume mixed with cigar smoke and aged whiskey. Security guards stood silently near every hallway, while women wrapped in diamonds laughed beside men whose smiles looked colder than knives. Sophia moved carefully between staff members while checking schedules on her tablet. The Bellerose was hosting a private political charity gala officially designed to raise money for urban development projects. Unofficially, everyone inside the hotel understood the event existed for far darker reasons. People whispered the same name all night, Adrian Moretti. Even the hotel staff lowered their voices whenever they mentioned him. Sophia had never officially met Adrian Moretti before, but Manhattan breathed with stories about him. Some called him a businessman. Others called him the invisible king controlling New York from behind luxury hotels, casinos, and political donations. Rumors painted him as ruthless, intelligent, and emotionally impossible to read. Men twice his age feared disappointing him. Politicians obeyed him more carefully than judges. Entire companies collapsed after speaking against him publicly. Sophia originally believed those stories were exaggerated. Then she saw what happened whenever Adrian entered a room. The ballroom energy shifted instantly near midnight. Conversation slowed. Security radios crackled softly. Wealthy guests straightened their posture without realizing it. Fear moved silently across the crowd like invisible smoke. Adrian Moretti entered surrounded by bodyguards wearing black suits and emotionless expressions. He looked calmer than the rumors described. That calmness felt worse. Tall, sharply dressed, and terrifyingly controlled, Adrian walked through the ballroom with the kind of confidence that came from knowing nobody inside the building would dare challenge him. His face remained unreadable beneath the soft golden lighting, while politicians greeted him with nervous smiles pretending loyalty. Sophia noticed something unsettling immediately. Nobody looked directly into Adrian's eyes for very long. She lowered her attention quickly and continued toward the restricted executive hallway, carrying updated event schedules. Employees were forbidden from entering the upper conference floors during private meetings, but the senior manager had demanded immediate delivery of revised security arrangements. Sophia hated those floors. The higher levels of the Bellerose felt disconnected from reality itself. Hallways remained unnaturally silent. Armed guards stood near private elevators. Cameras watched every angle continuously. Even the air felt colder. She approached the conference corridor carefully before hearing angry voices behind partially open doors. Instinct told her to leave immediately. Instead, she accidentally looked inside. Several politicians sat around a black conference table beside unfamiliar men wearing expensive suits. Large stacks of cash rested near folders stamped with government seals. One senator Sophia recognized from national television appeared visibly nervous, while another man quietly discussed shipping routes through eastern ports. Then Sophia heard a single terrifying word: trafficking. Her blood turned cold instantly. She stepped backward too quickly, bumping into a decorative table near the hallway wall. A crystal glass shattered loudly across the marble floor. Silence exploded inside the conference room. Sophia's heart nearly stopped. The doors opened immediately. Several armed guards rushed into the hallway, while politicians turned toward her with expressions filled less with anger and more with panic. One security guard grabbed Sophia's arm roughly before she could explain anything. Fear spread across the corridor with shocking speed. Then everyone suddenly became quiet again. Adrian Moretti had appeared behind them. His expression remained calm, but something colder now existed inside his eyes. Sophia immediately noticed how even the armed guard stepped backward when Adrian approached. The security guard released her arm instantly. Sophia tried explaining herself, but the words collapsed beneath panic. She apologized repeatedly while attempting to leave the restricted floor. Yet Adrian watched her silently without interruption. That silence terrified her more than shouting would have. One politician muttered that she should be removed from the building immediately. Another suggested contacting private security downstairs before the situation became complicated. Adrian ignored them completely. Instead, his attention stayed fixed on Sophia. For one unsettling moment, his expression almost changed. Not recognition. Shock. Sophia noticed it disappear quickly, but the reaction had already happened. Several members of Adrian's inner circle exchanged nervous glances afterward. Without warning, Adrian stepped closer and calmly took Sophia's wrist. The hallway froze. Nobody moved. Sophia's pulse hammered violently as Adrian guided her toward the private elevator at the end of the corridor. She attempted pulling away once, but the movement only tightened the tension surrounding them. Security guards looked away immediately. Politicians suddenly became interested in their phones. Nobody challenged him. The private elevator doors opened instantly. Sophia realized with growing horror that hotel security obeyed Adrian Moretti more than actual law enforcement. The doors closed behind them quietly. Now they were alone. The elevator moved upward smoothly, while silence pressed heavily against the walls around them. Sophia stayed near the corner, gripping her tablet tightly enough to hurt her fingers. Adrian stood across from her with frightening stillness. He did not threaten her. That somehow made everything worse. Sophia finally looked toward him carefully. His face remained calm, but exhaustion existed beneath that control. Not physical exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. The kind created by years of violence and betrayal. For the first time all night, Adrian spoke softly. He asked about her father. The question hit Sophia like ice water. Her father had died years earlier under mysterious circumstances, connected to financial crimes nobody fully explained. Sophia rarely mentioned him anymore. Hearing Adrian speak about him inside that elevator made fear crawl slowly through her chest. She demanded to know how he knew that name. Adrian did not answer immediately. Instead, he stared toward the glowing floor numbers while the elevator continued rising through the tower. Manhattan lights reflected faintly against the polished steel walls around them. Then Adrian admitted something unexpected. Someone inside his empire had murdered a member of his own family years earlier, his younger brother. The confession sounded emotionless on the surface, but pain existed beneath every word. Sophia noticed a slight tightening of his jaw afterward, the controlled breathing, the restraint hiding rage old enough to become permanent. Suddenly, Sophia understood something dangerous. Adrian Moretti was not protecting his empire anymore. He was hunting something inside it. The realization changed everything. Sophia's fear slowly mixed with curiosity, despite every survival instinct warning her otherwise. She began noticing details that contradicted the rumors surrounding him. Adrian's bodyguards feared him, yes, but they also feared disappointing him emotionally. His silence felt calculated rather than cruel. Even his anger seemed controlled by purpose instead of ego. Then Adrian looked directly at her again. For the first time, genuine concern appeared across his expression, not for himself, for her. He quietly explained that powerful people now considered Sophia a liability after what she witnessed downstairs. The politicians attending the gala could not risk exposure. Men involved in trafficking operations eliminated problems quickly. Sophia suddenly understood why nobody had allowed her near the elevators. She was never supposed to leave that floor alive. Fear crushed the air from her lungs. The elevator continued climbing higher into the tower, while panic spread through her thoughts. Every instinct screamed at her to escape. But another terrifying truth now existed. There was nowhere safe left to run. The elevator finally slowed near the penthouse level. Adrian remained silent as the doors opened slowly into a massive private hallway filled with dark marble, expensive artwork, and heavily armed guards. Sophia stepped forward carefully before freezing completely. A framed photograph rested against a far wall beneath dim golden lighting. Inside the photograph stood Adrian Moretti beside a younger man, smiling confidently at the camera years earlier. Sophia recognized the second man immediately, because standing beside Adrian's supposedly dead younger brother was her own father. Sophia Bennett could not stop staring at the photograph. The image remained burned into her thoughts long after Adrian Moretti escorted her deeper inside the penthouse. Her late father stood beside Adrian's younger brother with unsettling familiarity, both men smiling like trusted allies rather than strangers connected by tragedy. The realization shattered everything Sophia believed about her father's quiet life, because ordinary accountants did not stand beside Mafia heirs moments before their disappearance. The penthouse doors locked behind her with a heavy metallic sound that echoed through the enormous hallway. That sound changed something emotionally inside her. Until that moment, part of Sophia still believed she would eventually leave the Bellerose Hotel and return to normal life. Now she understood the truth. The penthouse was not temporary protection. It was a prison hidden beneath luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows surrounded the massive living area, revealing Manhattan glowing beneath the midnight rain. The skyline looked beautiful from above, but Sophia felt strangely disconnected from the world outside. The penthouse existed like its own isolated kingdom, suspended over the city. Black marble floors reflected dim golden lighting, while expensive artwork covered the walls beside antique statues and rare whiskey collections. Everything looked elegant. Nothing felt safe. Armed guards remained stationed near every hallway entrance, while hidden cameras watched silently from nearly invisible corners. Sophia slowly noticed surveillance everywhere. Tiny blinking lights above elevators. Motion sensors near private offices. Reinforced security doors hidden behind decorative walls. Every inch of the penthouse had been designed around paranoia. Sophia followed Adrian carefully through the silent corridors, while several employees lowered their eyes immediately upon seeing him. Fear surrounded him constantly, but it was not the loud kind. Nobody trembled openly. Nobody panicked visibly. The fear inside Adrian Moretti's empire was quieter than that, controlled, permanent. One older housekeeper accidentally dropped a silver tray while passing nearby. The woman instantly turned pale, apologizing repeatedly before kneeling to clean the broken glass with shaking hands. Adrian never raised his voice. He simply looked at her. That was enough. Sophia noticed the emotional terror immediately. The staff did not merely fear punishment. They feared disappointing him personally, as if Adrian's approval determined whether they deserved safety at all. That realization unsettled her more than aggression would have. Adrian eventually stopped outside a luxurious guest suite overlooking Central Park. His expression remained unreadable, while security guards quietly placed Sophia's small belongings inside the room. Somehow, someone had already collected her apartment keys and personal items without informing her. The efficiency frightened her. Sophia demanded to know how long she would be forced to stay there. Adrian answered calmly that she would remain until the people hunting her were identified. The response sounded reasonable on the surface. Yet Sophia noticed something disturbing underneath his tone. Adrian spoke like someone accustomed to controlling every outcome. The suite itself looked larger than Sophia's entire apartment. A fireplace glowed softly near velvet furniture, while expensive silk curtains framed the massive windows. Fresh clothes had already been arranged across the bed in her exact size. Nothing inside the penthouse happened accidentally. That fact became impossible to ignore. Hours passed slowly after Adrian disappeared into another section of the penthouse for private meetings. Sophia remained awake near the windows, unable to calm her thoughts. Her mind kept returning to the photograph downstairs. Questions multiplied endlessly. Why had her father known Adrian's younger brother? Why had nobody told her? And why did Adrian look emotionally shaken after seeing her for the first time? Around 2 a.m, movement inside the penthouse increased unexpectedly. Sophia carefully stepped into the hallway and noticed several unfamiliar men entering Adrian's private office area. Politicians, wealthy investors, men surrounded by armed bodyguards and expensive watches. Their faces appeared constantly on television, discussing law, justice, and public morality. Yet they entered Adrian Moretti's penthouse through private elevators hidden from public view. Sophia quietly followed the distant sound of conversation to the corridor before stopping near partially open doors. Inside the office, politicians discuss election funding beside men connected to shipping companies and international ports. Large financial records cover the conference table while names of senators, judges, and police officials appear across encrypted files displayed on massive screens. One phrase repeated continuously: asset transportation. Sophia immediately understood the real meaning beneath those words: human trafficking. A cold wave of horror moved through her chest. The Bellerose Hotel was not simply connected to organized crime. Adrian's empire reached into politics, law enforcement, and international business itself. Entire systems had been corrupted quietly beneath public society. Then Sophia noticed Adrian standing near the windows away from the others. Unlike the politicians surrounding him, Adrian did not appear comfortable. He looked exhausted, not physically, morally. For a brief moment, Sophia sensed something unexpected hiding beneath his reputation. Adrian Moretti looked less like a king enjoying power and more like a man trapped inside something poisonous long before he learned how to escape it. The realization disturbed her deeply. Sophia quietly stepped backward before accidentally hearing another name mentioned inside the office: Vanessa DeMarco. Minutes later, Sophia finally met her. Vanessa entered the penthouse like someone already believing she owned every room she walked into. Beautiful, elegant, and emotionally sharp enough to cut through steel, Vanessa carried herself with the confidence of a woman deeply connected to Adrian's world. Her expensive diamonds reflected against the hallway lighting, while cold intelligence remained visible behind her smile. The moment Vanessa saw Sophia, the atmosphere changed instantly. Judgment filled her eyes almost immediately. Sophia recognized the expression well. Wealthy women from Manhattan's elite social circles had looked at her that way for years. The silent reminder that she did not belong beside people like them. Vanessa's attention lingered briefly on Sophia's simple clothing before shifting toward the guest suite behind her. Then came the subtle cruelty, polite enough to avoid open insult, sharp enough to wound anyway. Sophia felt humiliation rise beneath her skin, while nearby employees pretended not to notice. Vanessa made certain everyone understood Sophia's lower social status, without ever directly saying it aloud. But what disturbed Sophia more was Vanessa's emotional reaction whenever Adrian appeared nearby. Possessiveness, jealousy, fear. Vanessa watched Sophia like a potential threat. That alone proved Sophia's presence inside the penthouse mattered more than she understood. Over the next several days, isolation slowly transformed into paranoia. Sophia discovered hidden surveillance systems inside bookshelves, mirrors, and ceiling corners. Guards followed her movements discreetly through every hallway. Even elevators required fingerprint access connected directly to Adrian's security network. Nobody truly slept peacefully inside the penthouse because everyone understood betrayal could come from anywhere. Rumors surrounding Adrian's murdered younger brother spread constantly among staff members. Some whispered the brother had been betrayed by politicians. Others believed rival Mafia families arranged the killing. A few claimed someone inside Adrian's own empire had sold information for money years earlier. Nobody spoke openly for long. Fear silenced people quickly there. Sophia eventually began exploring restricted sections of the penthouse, while Adrian attended meetings downstairs. Curiosity became stronger than caution. Hidden offices stretched behind disguised walls, while encrypted financial records filled locked cabinets. Then she found something horrifying. Detailed payment logs connected politicians to offshore accounts, moving through shell corporations tied to trafficking routes. Names of judges, senators, and federal officials appeared repeatedly beside enormous money transfers. Sophia's hands trembled while reading the documents. Entire lives had been destroyed so wealthy men could become richer. And Adrian Moretti stood at the center of it all. Yet another unsettling truth complicated everything emotionally. Sophia also discovered files showing Adrian secretly funding shelters for trafficking victims through anonymous charities. Large amounts of money disappeared from criminal accounts before reappearing inside humanitarian organizations, no one connected to him publicly. It made no sense. How could the same man connected to such darkness quietly protect victims at the same time? Sophia stopped seeing Adrian as purely monstrous after that. which terrified her even more, because emotional confusion slowly became emotional attachment. Late one evening, Sophia entered the library unexpectedly and found Adrian sitting alone beside the fireplace. Rain hammered softly against the windows while half-empty whiskey glasses rested nearby untouched. For once, he looked human instead of untouchable. His exhaustion appeared impossible to hide anymore. A thick file rested open across the table containing surveillance photographs and financial records connected to rival Mafia families. Adrian quickly closed it after noticing Sophia, but not before she recognized her own father's name printed across several pages. The silence between them felt strangely intimate, dangerously intimate. Adrian eventually admitted her father had been investigating corruption tied to trafficking networks before his death. According to him, powerful people inside multiple organizations feared exposure badly enough to eliminate anyone connected to the investigation. Sophia wanted to hate him. Instead, she noticed grief hidden behind his calmness. Adrian quietly explained that his younger brother died trying to expose the same network years earlier. Everything suddenly connected together. Her father, Adrian's brother, the trafficking operations, the politicians, the murders. For the first time since entering the penthouse, Sophia realized Adrian might not be her enemy at all. He might simply be another survivor trapped inside a corrupt empire too large to destroy alone. But trust inside Adrian Moretti's world came with deadly consequences. And someone inside the penthouse was already watching Sophia too closely. Near dawn, unable to sleep again, Sophia returned quietly toward one of the restricted archive rooms she had discovered earlier. Rain continued falling heavily beyond the windows, while security patrols shifted throughout the hallway. Inside the archive room, she searched through old storage boxes connected to Adrian's family history. Then she found another photograph hidden beneath financial records. This one looked different, more personal, more dangerous. Sophia's breath caught instantly. The photograph showed her late father standing beside Adrian's younger brother only hours before the brother disappeared forever. Sophia Bennett stopped believing in coincidences the moment she discovered the hidden recording buried inside Adrian Moretti's private office. Until then, fear had controlled most of her decisions inside the penthouse overlooking Manhattan. Fear of Adrian. Fear of the politicians entering the building after midnight. Fear of the armed guards stationed outside every hallway like silent statues protecting secrets worth killing for. But after discovering her late father connected to Adrian's murdered younger brother, fear slowly transformed into something far more dangerous. Curiosity. The penthouse no longer felt like a temporary prison. It felt like the center of a massive corruption network hidden beneath New York's wealthiest institutions. Every polished marble floor, every private meeting, and every quiet conversation inside Adrian's empire carried a feeling of invisible blood beneath expensive luxury. Days passed with growing psychological tension across the tower. News channels discussed political scandals spreading through the city, while federal investigators quietly reopened old financial crimes connected to missing women, offshore accounts, and trafficking operations hidden beneath luxury hospitality businesses. Powerful senators denied involvement publicly while secretly entering Adrian's building after midnight through underground parking garages. Sophia noticed patterns nobody else seemed willing to acknowledge. The politicians always looked terrified before entering Adrian's private floor, and even more terrified when leaving. Adrian himself remained emotionally controlled despite the growing pressure surrounding his empire. His calm behavior unsettled Sophia more than violence ever could. He rarely raised his voice, rarely showed anger openly, yet everyone around him behaved as though one wrong word could destroy their lives permanently, especially Vanessa DeMarco. Vanessa's jealousy toward Sophia became increasingly dangerous with every passing day. She moved through the penthouse like a predator protecting territory she believed belonged to her. Wealthy social elites connected to Adrian's organization quickly joined her silent campaign against Sophia. Expensive parties held inside the hotel ballroom became psychological battlefields disguised as luxury gatherings. Sophia endured humiliating stares and hidden racism from elite women who viewed her working-class background as contamination inside their world. They mocked her clothing subtly, ignored her presence intentionally, whispered insults disguised as polite conversation, whenever she entered a room. But Sophia slowly realized something important. None of them feared each other. They feared Adrian. That fear became obvious during a private dinner gathering attended by judges, senators, businessmen, and organized crime leaders hidden beneath public respectability. The atmosphere inside the penthouse dining hall carried unbearable tension beneath artificial smiles. Sophia accidentally overheard fragments of conversation involving missing financial records connected to trafficking routes across Chicago, Miami, and New York. Young women disappeared through fake employment programs, while politicians protected the operations through legal loopholes and corrupt investigations. The emotional weight of those discoveries shattered Sophia's remaining illusions about the people surrounding Adrian. These were not businessmen protecting wealth. They were predators protecting power. And somehow her father had become connected to all of it before his death. Late one night, unable to sleep beneath constant surveillance cameras and armed security patrols, Sophia quietly entered one of the restricted office wings inside the penthouse. Adrian trusted her enough now that certain guards no longer stopped her movement through private hallways. That trust terrified her almost as much as the empire itself. The office remained dark except for faint city lights reflecting across massive glass windows overlooking Manhattan. Financial records covered Adrian's desk beside photographs, encrypted hard drives, and handwritten notes connected to criminal investigations. Sophia carefully searched through stacks of documents until she uncovered hidden ledgers tied to judges, senators, and police commissioners receiving payments through shell corporations disguised as hotel investments. The corruption reached far beyond organized crime. It had infected government itself. Then she discovered photographs. Children, women, victims connected to trafficking operations hidden beneath luxury hotels and political charities. Sophia physically struggled to breathe while staring at the evidence. One photograph showed Adrian's younger brother, Matteo Moretti, standing beside several federal officials during a private event years earlier. Another showed Sophia's father near the same group, only weeks before both men disappeared permanently. Suddenly, the truth became horrifyingly clear. Her father had not abandoned his family. He had tried exposing something powerful enough to get him killed. The realization emotionally destroyed Sophia more than grief itself. For years, she blamed herself for her father's disappearance. She watched her mother slowly collapse beneath financial ruin and emotional devastation, while society quietly labeled their family broken and disposable. Now she understood the truth. Powerful people destroyed families like hers every day to protect themselves. A quiet sound behind her immediately froze the room. Adrian stood near the doorway, watching silently. His expression carried exhaustion more than anger. For several painful seconds, neither moved. Sophia expected rage for invading his office. Instead, Adrian slowly walked toward the desk before looking down at the photographs scattered beneath her trembling hands. The emotional tension between them shifted completely, because Adrian no longer looked like a mafia boss protecting criminal operations. He looked like a man drowning beneath them. Sophia finally understood why fear followed him everywhere. Not because he enjoyed violence, because he had spent years surviving inside it. Adrian eventually revealed fragments of the truth surrounding Matteo's death. Years earlier, Matteo discovered trafficking operations hidden beneath hotel businesses, controlled by political elites and criminal organizations together. He secretly collected evidence planning to expose the network publicly. Someone inside the Moretti empire betrayed him before he could succeed. Matteo disappeared days later. Official reports claimed gang violence caused his death. But Adrian never believed the story. That suspicion consumed him for years. Now Sophia's father appeared connected to the same investigation before his own disappearance. The realization emotionally destabilized Adrian in ways Sophia had never witnessed before. His carefully controlled personality cracked beneath old grief and betrayal. For the first time, Sophia saw genuine pain behind his cold exterior. And that vulnerability made him far more dangerous. Because wounded men with power often destroyed everything around them searching for revenge. Meanwhile, pressure across the empire intensified rapidly. Rival mafia families sensed weakness growing around Adrian's organization. Meetings between criminal leaders became increasingly hostile, while federal investigators quietly prepared larger operations targeting corruption networks across New York. Damian Cross emerged publicly during televised political hearings as a respected federal investigator exposing organized crime corruption nationwide. But privately, Damian manipulated both sides. He secretly leaked information between rival organizations while strengthening his own political influence through fear and public outrage. Adrian understood Damian's ambitions immediately. Damian did not want justice. He wanted control. Vanessa exploited the growing instability masterfully. She spread rumors among elite social circles claiming Sophia manipulated Adrian emotionally to weaken the Moretti empire from inside. Wealthy politicians and businessmen already uncomfortable with Sophia's presence began viewing her as a dangerous liability. Security teams inside the penthouse grew increasingly paranoid. Guards monitored each other suspiciously. Staff members disappeared quietly after accusations of betrayal surfaced throughout the organization. Then Adrian made an example of one traitor publicly. Sophia witnessed the aftermath inside the underground hotel parking structure late one night after hearing gunshots echo beneath the building. A former security captain accused of leaking information to rival families knelt bleeding beside black luxury vehicles while armed men surrounded him silently. Adrian never shouted, never threatened. His calmness during punishment horrified Sophia more than brutality itself. The message spread instantly through the empire. Betrayal meant death. But despite the darkness surrounding Adrian's world, emotional attachment between him and Sophia continued growing silently, not through dramatic declarations or romance, but through protection, trust, and shared grief. Adrian ensured extra security surrounded Sophia's younger sister after discovering threats connected to the investigation. Sophia noticed him watching her carefully during quiet moments inside the penthouse, almost as though protecting her had become emotionally necessary rather than strategic. That realization frightened her deeply, because she no longer knew whether Adrian represented danger or safety, perhaps both. The emotional conflict inside Sophia intensified after discovering additional evidence connected to her father. Hidden files revealed he worked secretly with Matteo Moretti, gathering evidence against trafficking networks protected by federal officials, judges, and organized crime leaders together. Her father had tried exposing monsters hidden behind political respectability, and those monsters erased him. Sophia's growing sympathy toward Adrian complicated everything further. She understood his obsession with revenge now, understood why grief transformed him into someone feared across America. The real monsters were not always the men holding weapons openly. Sometimes they wore expensive suits inside government buildings. That intellectual realization became the emotional hook, destroying Sophia's old understanding of morality forever. Near dawn one storm-filled morning, Sophia entered a hidden storage room connected to Adrian's private office, searching for additional files connected to her father. Rain crashed violently against the penthouse windows while distant thunder echoed across Manhattan. Inside a locked cabinet hidden beneath financial ledgers, she uncovered an old digital recorder labeled with a date from years earlier. Her hands trembled while pressing play. Static filled the room first, then voices. One belonged to her father. Another belonged to a man Sophia immediately recognized as a senior Moretti executive still operating inside Adrian's empire. The recording revealed horrifying truths slowly. Sophia's father warned that trafficking evidence connected to politicians and organized crime would destroy powerful careers if exposed publicly. Then another voice calmly ordered his disappearance before he could release the files. The order came from inside Adrian Moretti's own organization. Sophia stood frozen beneath the storm outside, while the recording continued playing through the dark room. Because the final voice speaking on the tape belonged to someone still living inside the penthouse beside Adrian himself. And suddenly Sophia realized the enemy had been watching both of them from inside the empire the entire time. Sophia Bennett stopped sleeping peacefully after discovering the recording hidden inside Adrian Moretti's private storage room. The truth surrounding her father's disappearance shattered whatever emotional stability she still possessed inside the heavily guarded penthouse overlooking Manhattan. Every hallway suddenly felt dangerous. Every glance from security guards carried hidden suspicion. Every whisper inside the hotel tower sounded like part of a larger conspiracy waiting to collapse around her. Most terrifying of all, Sophia now understood something the rest of New York's criminal world had already realized. Adrian Moretti was protecting her, and in a world built on violence, protection often became a death sentence. The recording exposing betrayal inside Adrian's empire spread fear to the organization faster than gunfire. Adrian quietly launched internal investigations across his businesses, while rival mafia families interpreted his growing emotional attachment to Sofia as weakness. That weakness made Sofia the most dangerous woman in New York overnight. Powerful enemies who once ignored her existence now watch her movements carefully through media surveillance, political contacts, and corrupted law enforcement networks. Her photograph quietly circulated through criminal circles alongside rumors claiming she possessed evidence capable of destroying senators, judges, and organized crime leaders together. The pressure surrounding Adrian's empire intensified daily. News stations suddenly exploded with investigations targeting corruption inside luxury hotel chains tied to trafficking operations and political money laundering. Federal hearings reopened old cases connected to missing witnesses, while journalists mysteriously disappeared after publishing partial evidence. Sofia quickly realized the media itself had become another weapon inside the war. Television networks manipulated narratives, depending on which politicians financed them. Wealthy businessmen portrayed themselves publicly as victims of criminal extortion, while secretly funding violence behind closed doors. Every public scandal carried hidden motives beneath carefully controlled outrage. Meanwhile, Vanessa DeMarco turned Sofia into the center of elite humiliation campaigns across Manhattan's wealthiest social circles. Charity galas, political fundraisers, and luxury social events subtly treated Sofia like contamination invading their world. Women born into wealth mocked her working-class background openly now that Adrian's attention toward her became impossible to ignore. Some whispered insults disguised as concern. Others stared at her bruised, emotional exhaustion with quiet satisfaction. Sofia endured it silently at first, but psychological warfare slowly destroyed her confidence piece by piece. She no longer recognized herself inside mirrors scattered throughout the penthouse. The exhausted woman staring back carried constant fear beneath her eyes. Fear of betrayal, fear of surveillance, fear of becoming responsible for Adrian's downfall. Yet despite the emotional damage spreading through her life, Adrian's behavior toward her changed in ways impossible to ignore. He became dangerously protective. Security around Sofia doubled throughout the hotel tower. Armed guards followed her movements discreetly through private hallways, while surveillance teams monitored every visitor entering Adrian's properties. Entire floors became restricted after intelligence reports suggested rival organizations planned kidnapping attempts connected to her. Staff members inside the penthouse noticed the shift immediately. Fear spread rapidly among employees because Adrian Moretti rarely protected anyone emotionally. His reputation had always depended on cold calculation rather than personal attachment. Now he interrupted meetings whenever Sofia disappeared too long from secured areas. He canceled negotiations with rival organizations after receiving threats involving her name. People began whispering that Adrian Moretti was losing control, and nothing terrified organized crime more than an emotional mafia king. Sofia herself struggled emotionally with the growing attachment between them. Adrian remained calm publicly, but small actions revealed dangerous emotional vulnerability beneath his controlled exterior. He ensured her younger sister received private medical treatment anonymously through hidden financial accounts. He stationed trusted guards outside her family apartment despite political risks. He personally reviewed security footage after rumors surfaced involving assassination attempts connected to her. None of those actions felt strategic anymore. They felt personal. That realization emotionally unsettled Sofia more than violence itself, because part of her no longer feared Adrian the way she once had. Part of her trusted him. The emotional conflict intensified during a private summit held inside Adrian's luxury hotel ballroom several nights later. Mafia leaders, politicians, businessmen, and corrupt legal officials gathered beneath crystal chandeliers, pretending civilization still existed beneath their expensive suits and controlled smiles. But tension poisoned the atmosphere instantly. Sofia accompanied Adrian reluctantly through the ballroom, while armed guards monitored every exit. Conversations quieted whenever they passed. Rival leaders watched Sofia with open hostility now that Adrian refused to distance himself from her publicly. She had become a symbol of instability inside the criminal empire, an emotional fracture threatening powerful men. One aging Mafia leader openly challenged Adrian during the summit without directly mentioning Sophia's name. He warned that emotional attachments weakened leadership and endangered entire organizations. Other crime bosses silently supported the criticism while pretending diplomatic neutrality. Adrian listened calmly, but Sophia noticed something terrifying beneath his composure. Rage. Not loud rage. Controlled rage. The kind capable of destroying cities quietly. The atmosphere inside the ballroom became psychologically suffocating. Wealthy elites treated Sophia like an outsider contaminating their carefully protected world. Hidden racism and class discrimination intensified openly among powerful families who viewed her lower social background as proof she could never belong beside Adrian. One senator's wife intentionally humiliated Sophia during a public charity speech by referencing women who accidentally rise above their station. Several guests laughed quietly. Adrian did not. The silence following that moment emotionally froze the ballroom, because everyone realized the most feared man in the room had stopped pretending to tolerate disrespect toward Sophia. The summit ended shortly afterward beneath unbearable tension, and later that night, the senator responsible for mocking Sophia resigned publicly after leaked financial crimes surfaced across national news networks. Nobody questioned who exposed him. Fear spread rapidly afterward. Security teams throughout Adrian's empire became increasingly paranoid. Guards monitored each other suspiciously, while hidden betrayal infected every department inside the hotel organization. Several trusted employees disappeared quietly after evidence linked them to rival families preparing coordinated attacks. Adrian responded with ruthless efficiency. Entire criminal operations connected to betrayal collapsed within days. Warehouses burned mysteriously. Financial accounts vanished overnight. Rival smugglers disappeared permanently after threatening Sophia publicly. The underworld understood Adrian's message clearly. Touch Sophia Bennett and die. But violence only accelerated the empire's instability. Federal investigators led by Damian Cross intensified pressure against Adrian's businesses publicly while secretly manipulating rival families behind scenes. Damian understood emotional weakness better than anyone involved in the war. He quietly fueled paranoia across every organization connected to Adrian, while presenting himself publicly as the man preparing to destroy organized crime forever. Sophia began noticing psychological cracks spreading to the penthouse itself. Staff members avoided eye contact. Armed guards carried nervous energy constantly. Even Vanessa appeared increasingly unstable as Adrian's emotional attachment toward Sophia deepened. The emotional tension between Sophia and Adrian eventually reached dangerous intimacy during one rain-filled evening overlooking Manhattan's skyline. After another exhausting political scandal dominated national headlines, Sophia found Adrian alone inside the penthouse library surrounded by financial files and surveillance reports. For the first time since entering his world, she saw exhaustion overpowering him completely. Not physical exhaustion, emotional exhaustion. Years of betrayal, violence, and grief finally weighed visibly across his expression. Sophia quietly realized Adrian no longer fought merely for power. He fought because revenge became the only thing keeping him alive after losing everyone he once trusted. That realization emotionally broke something inside her, because she finally understood the intellectual truth hiding beneath the empire's violence. Monsters were rarely born. Most were created slowly through betrayal and survival. The emotional intimacy between them deepened without dramatic confessions. A lingering glance, silent understanding, shared grief inside dark hallways where trust felt more dangerous than bullets. Sophia hated herself for caring about him, but she cared anyway. Outside the penthouse walls, coordinated attacks against Adrian's empire quietly accelerated. Rival organizations purchased weapons, bribed officials, and infiltrated security systems connected to the hotel tower. Someone inside Adrian's inner circle leaked confidential movement schedules directly to enemies preparing for war. Psychological warfare consumed the empire entirely. Sophia emotionally collapsed beneath the pressure soon afterward. Weeks of fear, humiliation, surveillance, and constant danger shattered emotional control she fought desperately to maintain. She stopped eating regularly, stopped sleeping more than a few hours nightly. Every unfamiliar sound inside the penthouse triggered panic. Adrian noticed immediately. And for the first time, the ruthless Mafia boss looked genuinely afraid. Not for himself. For her. That fear emotionally changed him further. Security across the hotel became militarized overnight. Adrian canceled major political meetings and personally supervised internal investigations searching for traitors. Entire departments inside the organization feared violent retaliation as suspicion spread rapidly. Vanessa exploited the chaos perfectly. She secretly manipulated rival leaders into believing Sophia represented Adrian's fatal weakness. If Sophia disappeared, Adrian's empire would collapse emotionally and politically. The decision was made quietly across multiple criminal organizations. Sophia Bennett had to die. The attack came during a violent midnight thunderstorm that swallowed Manhattan beneath darkness and rain. Lightning flashed across penthouse windows, while armed security patrolled the corridors outside Sophia's private suite. Sophia stood near the bedroom window, unable to sleep, emotionally drained after another terrifying day inside Adrian's collapsing empire. Then everything shattered instantly. Glass exploded across the room with deafening force. A sniper bullet crashed through the penthouse bedroom window only inches from Sophia's head as thunder shook the Manhattan skyline beyond the burning city lights. The sniper attack changed everything inside Adrian Moretti's empire. After the bullet shattered Sophia Bennett's penthouse window during the midnight storm, paranoia consumed the entire hotel tower like an infection spreading through blood. Armed guards sealed every entrance while surveillance teams searched desperately for the shooter hidden somewhere within Manhattan's endless skyline. Nobody slept peacefully anymore. Every elevator ride carried suspicion. Every security officer became a potential traitor. But the most dangerous change happened inside Adrian himself. The calm emotional control, defining his reputation across New York, slowly began disappearing. And powerful people noticed immediately. Within days, rumors spread through criminal networks claiming Adrian Moretti had become emotionally compromised because of Sophia. Rival mafia leaders interpreted the sniper attack not as weakness against Adrian's empire, but as proof that Sophia represented the perfect pressure point capable of destroying him psychologically. The realization united enemies who normally despised each other. A massive political and criminal gathering was quickly organized inside Adrian's luxury Manhattan hotel under the excuse of a charitable economic summit benefiting international development programs. Publicly, the event represented wealth and influence. Secretly, it became a battlefield where rival organizations prepared to test Adrian's emotional vulnerability directly. Sophia understood the danger the moment she entered the ballroom beside him. Crystal chandeliers reflected across polished marble floors, while senators, billionaires, celebrities, and organized crime leaders moved through the room pretending civilization still existed beneath expensive clothing and rehearsed smiles. Security guards blended among guests carrying hidden weapons beneath tailored suits. Politicians laughed beside murderers, while television cameras documented fake charity speeches designed to distract the public from corruption poisoning the country itself. The ballroom carried the same suffocating atmosphere. Sophia remembered from the private elevator, where Adrian first forced her into his world. Luxury hiding violence, power hiding fear. And now every powerful person in New York watched her like prey. Vanessa DeMarco moved gracefully through the ballroom, manipulating conversations with surgical precision. She quietly encouraged rival leaders to pressure Adrian emotionally throughout the evening, while spreading rumors claiming Sophia secretly worked with federal investigators. Damian Cross operated differently. He remained calm near the political elite, while privately manipulating both criminal organizations and federal agencies simultaneously. Publicly, Damian continued presenting himself as the ambitious investigator determined to expose organized crime corruption nationwide. Privately, he fueled the war intentionally. Sophia gradually realized something terrifying about Damian that night. He enjoyed watching powerful people destroy each other. The psychological warfare spreading through the ballroom became almost unbearable. Every conversation carried hidden threats beneath polite smiles. Wealthy elites insulted Sophia subtly through comments about class, education, and social status, while pretending sophistication. Some women openly questioned why Adrian allowed someone like her inside rooms meant for powerful families. Others treated Sophia like temporary entertainment before her inevitable destruction. The hidden racism and class discrimination emotionally exhausted her further. Manhattan's elite viewed poverty itself as weakness deserving humiliation. They mocked struggle because most had never survived it themselves. But despite the cruelty surrounding her, Sophia noticed something emotionally unsettling about Adrian throughout the evening. Fear. Not fear for himself. Fear for her. It appeared through small moments impossible for others to recognize. His eyes constantly searched crowded areas tracking possible threats. His posture remained tense whenever Sophia disappeared more than several feet away. Security teams surrounding the ballroom received non-stop instructions through hidden communication devices. Adrian Moretti looked like a man preparing for disaster, and that vulnerability terrified the criminal empire more than violence ever could, because emotionally detached men remained predictable. Men protecting someone they loved became dangerous beyond reason. The tension inside the ballroom escalated after several rival leaders intentionally cornered Adrian during a private negotiation disguised as political discussion. They questioned his judgment publicly while referencing the recent sniper attack against Sophia. Nobody directly threatened her. They didn't need to. The implication poisoned the atmosphere instantly. Sophia watched Adrian's carefully controlled expression harden beneath the ballroom lights. For years, criminal organizations feared him because he never allowed emotions to interfere with power. Now rival leaders deliberately use Sophia's existence against him, knowing emotional weakness destabilized empires faster than bullets. And Adrian allowed it, because every insult directed toward Sophia emotionally affected him. That realization spread to the ballroom rapidly. Fear followed immediately afterward. The evening reached another turning point once corruption hidden beneath the political summit began surfacing publicly. Anonymous leaks connected several senators attending the event to trafficking operations, offshore money laundering systems, and witness disappearances tied to Adrian's business rivals. Phones vibrated throughout the ballroom simultaneously as news alerts exploded nationwide. Politicians panicked quietly. Businessmen abandoned conversations mid-sentence. Federal investigators monitoring the event from surrounding buildings immediately intensified surveillance operations after financial records appeared online, exposing government corruption connected to organized crime. Someone inside the empire had launched war publicly. Damien Cross smiled when the chaos began. Sophia noticed it instantly. He wanted destruction, not justice. Meanwhile, Adrian remained emotionally focused on only one thing: keeping Sophia alive. The emotional hook destroying Sophia psychologically throughout the evening became impossible to ignore. The most feared mafia boss in New York no longer cared whether his empire survived. He only cared whether she did. That realization emotionally shattered her remaining emotional distance toward him. Because despite the violence surrounding Adrian's world, despite the corruption and blood attached to his name, Sophia finally understood his real tragedy. Adrian Moretti had spent years becoming a monster powerful enough to survive betrayal. But Sophia's presence forced him to remember he was still human, and humanity became fatal inside empires built on fear. The ballroom orchestra eventually resumed performing despite growing political chaos surrounding the event. Wealthy elites pretended normalcy, while security teams secretly prepared for possible attacks throughout the hotel tower. Then Adrian did something that emotionally froze the entire room. He walked directly toward Sophia beneath the chandeliers and silently extended his hand. The symbolic weight of that moment spread through the ballroom instantly, because everyone remembered how Sophia first entered Adrian's world, trapped inside his private elevator, unable to escape him. Now he invited her willingly into the center of his empire publicly, and she accepted. The second Adrian pulled Sophia onto the ballroom floor, silence quietly spread across surrounding conversations. Rival mafia leaders, senators, and criminal financiers watched carefully as the feared head of the Moretti Empire danced with a woman, destroying his emotional control piece by piece. The dance itself felt hauntingly intimate beneath the music and golden lighting. Adrian's movements remained calm and controlled, but Sophia sensed tension beneath every touch. His attention never fully left the surrounding room. Even during moments of emotional closeness, instinct forced him to monitor exits, guards, and suspicious movement patterns constantly. Sophia realizing that Adrian had forgotten how to feel safe years ago, and somehow she had become the one thing capable of terrifying him emotionally. The intimacy between them deepened silently during the dance. No dramatic confessions. No public affection. Only understanding. Sophia finally recognized the grief hidden beneath Adrian's cold exterior, the betrayal surrounding his brother's murder, the loneliness consuming him inside an empire where trust always ended in blood. And Adrian recognized something equally dangerous inside Sophia. Loyalty. Real loyalty. Not purchased loyalty built through fear or money. Human loyalty. The kind, powerful men spent lifetimes searching for. That emotional vulnerability weakened Adrian publicly in ways rival organizations immediately exploited. Several security systems inside the hotel suddenly malfunctioned during the dance. Surveillance cameras disconnected across multiple floors. Armed guards stopped responding through communication channels. Someone inside the organization betrayed Adrian again. Panic quietly spread among security teams while guests continued pretending ignorance beneath the orchestra music. Vanessa disappeared from the ballroom moments before emergency systems failed completely. Damian Cross quietly exited toward restricted hotel floors, while federal vehicles surrounded nearby streets unnoticed beneath Manhattan traffic. Everything had been planned carefully. The summit, the leaks, the emotional pressure against Adrian. The dance itself became distraction before destruction. Sophia sensed the shift instantly. The ballroom atmosphere changed from tension to silent terror within seconds. Armed guards reached for concealed weapons while rival leaders slowly distanced themselves from central exits. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice, before emergency lockdown systems activated across the entire hotel tower. Massive steel security doors crashed shut around every ballroom exit simultaneously. Screams echoed across the room. Security alarms exploded through hidden speakers. And outside the ballroom windows, black armored vehicles suddenly surrounded the hotel tower from every direction, while heavily armed men flooded the surrounding streets beneath the storm-filled Manhattan night. The ballroom doors suddenly locked as armed men surrounded the entire hotel tower. The first explosion shattered the upper glass levels of the Manhattan Hotel seconds after the ballroom doors locked automatically. Crystal chandeliers trembled violently above terrified politicians, mafia leaders, and wealthy elites as panic spread to the massive ballroom like wildfire. Expensive wine glasses crashed onto marble floors while security teams reached for hidden weapons beneath their jackets. Nobody inside the tower understood who had betrayed whom anymore. The only certainty left was that Adrian Moretti's empire was collapsing in real time. Sophia Bennett stood frozen near the ballroom staircase, while smoke slowly spread across the ceiling. Her pulse hammered painfully inside her chest as frightened guests pushed against one another, trying to escape. The luxurious atmosphere that once represented power and control had transformed into pure psychological terror within seconds. Across the ballroom, Adrian remained frighteningly calm. That calmness disturbed Sophia more than the explosions themselves. His dark suit was stained with blood from a wounded guard beside him, yet his expression barely changed while alarms screamed throughout the hotel tower. The feared Mafia king looked less like a man protecting an empire and more like someone watching a carefully planned funeral finally begin. Then the gunfire started. Automatic weapons erupted from hidden balcony positions above the ballroom. Armed men emerged from service corridors, elevators, and emergency exits simultaneously. Rival organizations had infiltrated the hotel long before the gala even began. Wealthy guests collapsed behind overturned banquet tables, while bodyguards exchanged gunfire beneath exploding chandeliers. Sophia instinctively moved backward, but Adrian crossed the ballroom to the chaos with terrifying precision and grabbed her wrist before another explosion shattered the nearby staircase. Fear spread through the room the moment people noticed Adrian protecting her openly. That single detail changed everything. For years, criminal organizations across New York feared Adrian because he never allowed emotion to interfere with power. Yet now the ruthless mafia boss was risking his empire for a woman connected to secrets buried inside his own organization. Rival leaders immediately understood his weakness, and weaknesses inside the underworld never survived. Sophia barely managed to stay on her feet as Adrian forced her through smoke-filled corridors behind the ballroom. Security teams surrounded them while terrified hotel staff ran through the hallways, searching desperately for exits. Several employees collapsed crying near shattered elevators after discovering armed men waiting downstairs. The luxury hotel no longer felt like a fortress. It felt like a graveyard preparing itself. Another explosion shook the building violently, knocking framed artwork from the walls. Emergency lights flashed red across the corridors, while sprinkler systems flooded marble floors with water mixed with blood. Sophia watched Adrian execute one of his own men without hesitation after discovering the guards secretly communicating with rival attackers through an encrypted device. The betrayal happened so quickly that several nearby guards lowered their eyes immediately afterward, terrified of becoming the next target. Adrian's brutal reputation had always existed through rumors and whispered stories. Now Sophia finally witnessed the reality beneath those stories. There was no hesitation inside him anymore. No humanity, only survival. Yet despite the violence surrounding him, Adrian never loosened his grip on Sophia's arm. He moved her behind him every time gunfire erupted nearby. He shielded her during explosions while issuing cold commands to his remaining loyal men. That contradiction slowly destroyed Sophia emotionally. The same man capable of horrifying brutality was risking everything to keep her alive. That realization frightened her more deeply than the attack itself. As they reached a secure hallway near the private penthouse elevators, Adrian suddenly stopped walking. Several armed guards waited there already wounded, their expressions filled with panic after seeing Adrian approach. One of them quietly revealed federal agents had begun raiding Moretti properties across New York simultaneously. Someone had leaked everything: political corruption, trafficking operations, money laundering networks, hidden recordings, bank accounts, secret partnerships involving senators, judges, and law enforcement officials. The empire was dying publicly. Sophia stared at the television screens mounted across the hallway walls. National news stations now broadcast emergency footage showing federal vehicles surrounding businesses connected to the Moretti organization. Reporters described widespread arrests involving politicians and criminal figures tied to organized crime networks throughout the country. The destruction was no longer private. America was watching it happen live. Sophia suddenly realized Adrian had expected this outcome long before tonight. That terrifying thought settled heavily inside her chest. He had not been trying to save the empire. He had been preparing to destroy it himself. Before she could process the realization completely, another horrifying betrayal emerged. Vanessa DeMarco appeared from the elevator corridor, surrounded by heavily armed men loyal to rival organizations. Her elegant appearance remained untouched despite the bloodshed spreading throughout the hotel. The calm satisfaction inside her eyes disturbed Sophia instantly. Vanessa had orchestrated part of the attack. Years of jealousy, manipulation, and obsession had finally transformed into open betrayal. Several guards immediately turned their weapons toward Adrian after Vanessa exposed hidden traitors inside his own security teams. The atmosphere shifted dangerously within seconds. Sophia saw something painful move through Adrian's expression for the first time that night. Disappointment. Not fear, not rage, just disappointment. Vanessa had once belonged to the inner circle he trusted most. Now she stood beside the people trying to erase him. Gunfire exploded again before anyone could react further. The corridor descended into violent chaos as loyal guards clashed against traitors at point-blank range. Bullets shattered elevator doors while smoke consumed the narrow hallway. Sophia dropped to the flooded marble floor as screams echoed through the tower. Adrian dragged her behind reinforced pillars while continuing to fire calmly toward approaching attackers. The brutality surrounding him no longer resembled ordinary violence. It resembled controlled destruction. Sophia watched him eliminate enemies with terrifying precision while maintaining complete emotional control. Every movement looked practiced. Every decision looked inevitable. This was the true version of Adrian Moretti the underworld feared. Not the elegant businessman from charity galas. Not the calm figure standing beside politicians. But the monster created by betrayal, grief, and decades of violence. And somehow, despite witnessing that darkness fully, Sophia could no longer convince herself to hate him. That emotional conflict tore through her painfully. Because beneath the bloodshed and fear, Adrian had never once allowed harm to reach her directly. Even now, while his empire collapsed around him, protecting Sophia remained his first instinct. Another massive explosion ripped through the lower hotel floors, causing the building lights to fail completely for several terrifying seconds. Emergency backup systems activated moments later, bathing the corridors in dim red lighting that made the destruction appear even more horrifying. Smoke now spread rapidly upward through the ventilation systems. The hotel was burning from within. Adrian finally forced Sophia toward a hidden service corridor connected to the penthouse levels. Several surviving guards followed behind them while carrying wounded staff members through the smoke. Many employees were crying openly now, trapped between federal raids, rival assassins, and collapsing sections of the tower. Sophia suddenly realized innocent people were dying because powerful men had spent years protecting corruption behind luxury and fear. That truth emotionally shattered something inside her, especially after Adrian finally revealed the truth about her father. Inside a secured penthouse office temporarily untouched by the attacks, Adrian opened hidden files containing years of evidence connected to trafficking operations and political blackmail networks. Sophia discovered her father had secretly worked against those operations before his death. He had tried exposing the empire from inside, and powerful people murdered him for it. The revelation left Sophia emotionally numb. Her father had not abandoned his family. He had died trying to stop monsters hidden beneath political and criminal systems protecting each other for decades. Adrian quietly admitted he discovered the truth too late. That guilt haunted him more deeply than any rival betrayal. Before Sophia could fully process the confession, armed men suddenly breached the penthouse security doors. The final attack had reached them. Gunfire tore through the office instantly. Glass walls exploded outward overlooking the Manhattan skyline, while flames spread across nearby rooms. Several guards died protecting the corridor entrance, while Adrian forced Sophia toward an emergency stairwell. The tower now sounded like a collapsing war zone. Federal helicopters circled outside. Sirens screamed through the streets below. Smoke consumed entire hotel levels. And somewhere inside the chaos, Damian Cross continued manipulating both federal operations and criminal organizations simultaneously. Sophia finally understood the terrifying truth. The empire had never truly belonged to Adrian alone. It belonged to an entire system built on corruption, fear, racism, money, and political protection. Destroying one mafia king would never destroy the system itself. As they descended through smoke-filled stairwells, another explosion erupted nearby with devastating force. The blast threw Sophia violently against a concrete wall, while flames consumed the lower staircase beneath them. For one horrifying second, she believed they were both about to die. But Adrian shielded her completely. His body absorbed most of the explosion as debris crashed around them. Sophia screamed as sections of the staircase collapsed into flames below. Adrian struggled painfully to remain standing despite blood spreading across his shoulder and back from the blast impact. Yet, even injured, he still forced Sophia toward the emergency exit above. The emotional weight of that sacrifice broke something inside her completely. No one had ever protected her like this before, not without expecting control, not without demanding something in return. But Adrian kept risking his life simply to keep her alive. The burning tower groaned violently around them as structural damage worsened. Smoke swallowed entire hallways while emergency alarms continued screaming endlessly through the collapsing hotel. Then Adrian suddenly stopped moving. Several floors below them exploded simultaneously, causing the stairwell to collapse further between them and the exit. Sophia reached desperately for him through the smoke, but Adrian stepped backward instead. His expression carried something far heavier than fear now: acceptance. He had planned for this ending long ago. Without warning, Adrian shoved Sophia upward toward surviving guards waiting near the emergency exit above, while flames spread rapidly through collapsing stairwell behind him. The last thing Sophia saw before another explosion separated them completely was Adrian Moretti disappearing into the burning darkness beneath the collapsing hotel tower after saving her life. 6 months after the destruction of the Moretti Hotel Tower, Manhattan still carried the scars of Adrian Moretti's collapse. The burned remains of the luxury skyscraper stood behind steel barricades, like a black monument to corruption, betrayal, and power. News networks continued replaying footage from the night of the explosions, while politicians publicly denied any involvement with the criminal empire they had secretly protected for years. But despite federal raids, arrests, and investigations spreading across the country, one terrifying rumor refused to disappear. Adrian Moretti might still be alive. That possibility haunted powerful men far more than the empire itself ever had. Sophia Bennett understood why. Even now, months after watching the hotel collapse into flames, she still woke during the middle of the night hearing echoes of gunfire and screaming alarms inside her head. The emotional trauma followed her everywhere. Crowded streets made her anxious. Luxury hotels made her physically sick. Black vehicles parked outside buildings forced panic into her chest before logic could calm her down. She tried rebuilding a quiet life in Boston under federal protection after the attacks, but peace felt impossible now, because people connected to Adrian Moretti never truly escaped his world. Sophia lived inside a small apartment overlooking rainy city streets far away from Manhattan's political elite, yet paranoia still surrounded her constantly. She checked mirrors while walking home from work. She avoided crowded restaurants. She memorized emergency exits inside every building she entered. Fear had rewired her entire existence. And somewhere beneath that fear lived something even more dangerous. Hope. That emotional contradiction slowly consumed her. Part of Sophia desperately wanted Adrian dead, because death would finally close the nightmare surrounding him. But another part of her remained haunted by the final moments inside the burning hotel tower. The way he protected her. The way he accepted destruction without fear. The way he disappeared into the flames as if sacrifice had always been inevitable. No matter how hard Sophia tried convincing herself otherwise, she could not erase the feeling that Adrian Moretti vanished intentionally. That terrifying thought returned stronger after the coded messages began arriving. The first envelope appeared beneath her apartment door during a thunderstorm. No return address. No fingerprints. No handwriting. Only a small photograph of a church buried beneath layers of old newspaper clippings involving corruption investigations connected to senators, judges, and missing witnesses tied to the Moretti empire. Sophia immediately contacted federal authorities, but Damian Cross dismissed the message publicly as emotional manipulation designed to destabilize her mentally. His response disturbed her deeply, especially because Damian Cross no longer resembled an ordinary investigator. After the fall of the Moretti Empire, Damian gained enormous political influence through media appearances and federal operations targeting organized crime nationwide. News stations portrayed him as a national hero responsible for dismantling corruption networks hidden inside elite financial systems. But Sophia no longer trusted him. Not after discovering evidence proving Damian manipulated both criminal organizations and federal investigations for years. Power had transformed him into something colder, more dangerous. He no longer hunted corruption. He controlled it. That realization became horrifyingly clear after several surviving witnesses connected to the Moretti investigations disappeared mysteriously across multiple states. Witness protection failures increased rapidly, while politicians tied to trafficking operations quietly avoided prosecution despite overwhelming evidence. The system was protecting itself again, just like Adrian once warned. Sophia spent weeks secretly investigating hidden financial files recovered after the hotel destruction. The files exposed politicians, judges, police commissioners, businessmen, and celebrities connected to trafficking operations hidden beneath legitimate corporations. The deeper she searched, the more horrifying the truth became. Adrian Moretti had not built the corruption network. He inherited part of it, and shortly before the hotel attack, he secretly began destroying it from within. That discovery emotionally shattered Sophia because it forced her to reevaluate everything she believed about him. He had committed terrible acts. He had ruled through fear. Blood existed on his hands. Yet buried beneath the violence was a man trying to destroy the same system that murdered his younger brother and corrupted generations of powerful families. Sophia finally understood why Adrian looked emotionally exhausted during the final weeks before the empire collapsed. He already knew survival was impossible. The criminal world would never allow someone like him to walk away peacefully. As winter settled over the city, Sophia uncovered another devastating truth connected to her father. Hidden recordings recovered from destroyed Moretti servers revealed her father worked secretly alongside investigative journalists years before his disappearance. Together, they gathered evidence against trafficking networks protected by wealthy political figures throughout New York. Her father never abandoned his family. He was silenced. The emotional weight of that realization nearly destroyed Sophia completely. For years, she carried resentment toward a man she believed disappeared willingly. Now, she understood he died trying to expose monsters hidden behind expensive suits and political speeches. And Adrian Moretti somehow tried finishing what her father started. That painful truth blurred the line between monster and protector until Sophia no longer knew what to believe anymore. Then the second coded message arrived. This time the envelope contained coordinates leading toward an abandoned church outside Manhattan, alongside a key engraved with the Moretti family crest. Sophia's fear returned instantly. Someone was watching her closely. Someone who understood details about Adrian's hidden operations. Federal authorities again dismissed the message publicly, but Sophia noticed increased surveillance surrounding her apartment afterward. Unmarked vehicles appeared repeatedly outside her workplace. Unknown men followed her through subway stations before disappearing into crowds. The remaining enemies connected to the empire were hunting her again, not because of who she was, but because of what she knew. Psychological paranoia slowly consumed her daily life afterward. Sleep became nearly impossible. Every sound outside her apartment felt threatening. Every stranger seemed connected to hidden organizations waiting for an opportunity to silence her permanently. Yet despite the fear, Sophia could not ignore the possibility hidden beneath those coded messages. Adrian might still be alive. That thought emotionally terrified her because hope carried consequences. If Adrian survived, then the war surrounding the Moretti Empire had never truly ended. One snowy evening, Sophia finally traveled toward the abandoned church hidden beyond the outskirts of Manhattan. The cathedral stood isolated between dead trees and crumbling stone walls overlooking frozen ground untouched by city noise. The atmosphere felt haunted, not spiritually, emotionally. The church carried the silence of forgotten tragedies buried beneath history and power. Sophia entered cautiously while snow drifted through broken stained glass windows above the ruined pews. Candle wax covered the floors beside collapsed religious statues darkened by smoke and age. Then she noticed fresh footprints. Someone had been there recently. Fear tightened painfully inside her chest as she moved deeper into the abandoned cathedral, carrying the engraved key inside her coat pocket. The silence surrounding the building felt unnatural, almost watchful. Near the altar, Sophia discovered a hidden underground passage partially concealed beneath damaged wooden flooring. And inside the underground vault beneath the church, she found Adrian's final contingency plan. Hidden servers, financial records, encrypted files, political blackmail evidence, trafficking documents tied to government officials across multiple states. Enough information to destroy careers, organizations, and powerful families permanently. Adrian had prepared everything long before the hotel collapsed. He planned for the empire's destruction carefully. Sophia suddenly understood the terrifying scale of what Adrian sacrificed himself for. He was never trying to protect the empire. He was preparing to burn the entire system down. But one final discovery inside the underground vault emotionally changed everything. Among the hidden documents rested recent security footage time-stamped only days earlier. The footage showed Adrian entering the cathedral alone, alive. Sophia's heartbeat nearly stopped. The realization crashed through her emotionally with devastating force. Every rumor, every coded message, every hidden clue suddenly connected together. Adrian survived the hotel explosion, and he had been watching from the shadows ever since. Fear and hope collided violently inside Sophia at the same moment. Because if Adrian remained alive, then so did the enemies hunting him. Suddenly footsteps echoed somewhere above the underground chamber. Sophia froze instantly. The sound moved slowly across the cathedral floor overhead before stopping completely. Then silence returned. A deep, suffocating silence. Sophia carefully climbed the narrow staircase leading back toward the ruined cathedral above. Snow continued falling softly through shattered stained glass windows, while moonlight illuminated the empty pews in pale silver shadows. At first, she believed the church was empty again. Then she saw him, a tall figure standing motionless inside the shadows near the altar, wearing a dark coat partially hidden beneath the flickering candlelight. Adrian Moretti, alive, and watching her silently from inside the abandoned cathedral. Snow drifted silently through the shattered cathedral windows, while Sophia Bennett stood frozen beneath the fading candlelight, staring at Adrian Moretti as though she were witnessing a ghost step out of darkness. Months of grief, fear, confusion, and unanswered questions collapsed inside her chest at once. Adrian remained motionless near the altar, partially hidden beneath shadows cast across the ruined cathedral walls. The powerful Mafia king who once controlled politicians, criminal empires, luxury hotels, and entire financial networks no longer looked untouchable. He looked exhausted, not physically, emotionally. The weight of betrayal and destruction had hollowed something inside him permanently. Sophia slowly realized the most dangerous men were not destroyed by bullets or prisons. They were destroyed by surviving too long inside worlds built on corruption and grief. For several silent seconds, neither of them moved. Wind passed through the broken stained glass windows above them, while distant church bells echoed somewhere beyond the abandoned streets outside. The atmosphere mirrored the private elevator, where everything began months earlier. Back then, Sophia feared Adrian because he represented power beyond law and morality. Now she feared him for an entirely different reason, because she finally understood him. And understanding someone capable of terrible violence emotionally changed everything. Adrian eventually stepped forward from the shadows, holding a worn leather folder containing the final collection of evidence hidden from both federal investigators and rival organizations. His expression remained calm, but Sophia immediately noticed the exhaustion buried behind his eyes. He had been running ever since the hotel collapsed, not to survive, to finish something. The hidden vault beneath the cathedral contained enough evidence to destroy political careers nationwide. Senators, judges, police commissioners, businessmen, and federal officials connected to trafficking operations had secretly protected criminal networks for decades. But Adrian quietly revealed an even darker truth. The corruption network was never simply about organized crime. It was about power protecting itself across generations. Politicians funded trafficking routes through private corporations. Federal agencies manipulated investigations to eliminate inconvenient witnesses. Wealthy elites financed violence while pretending to fight against it publicly. The Mafia never operated outside the system. It operated inside it. That horrifying realization emotionally shook Sophia more deeply than anything else she had discovered, especially after Adrian revealed the full truth about her father. Years earlier, Sophia's father secretly worked alongside Adrian's younger brother, investigating the hidden financial operations connecting political institutions to organized crime networks. Together, they uncovered evidence capable of exposing powerful families across New York. But someone inside Adrian's own organization betrayed them. Adrian's younger brother was murdered. Sophia's father disappeared shortly afterward. And Adrian spent years hunting the wrong enemies afterward because grief blinded him completely. That truth became his darkest secret. Not the violence, not the murders, not the empire, but the guilt. Because Adrian eventually discovered the betrayal came from people standing closest to him the entire time, including Damien Cross. Sophia felt physically sick after realizing Damien manipulated nearly every major event surrounding the empire's collapse. As both a federal investigator and political strategist, Damien secretly controlled information flowing between criminal organizations and government agencies for years. He allowed corruption to survive while carefully positioning himself as a public hero fighting against it. And now he wanted complete control over what remained after Adrian's destruction. Sophia suddenly understood why witnesses kept disappearing after the hotel attack. Damien was erasing loose ends. Before either of them could speak further, headlights suddenly illuminated the cathedral windows outside. Then came the sound of vehicles surrounding the abandoned church. Federal agents. Adrian showed no surprise. He expected them. Sophia realized another painful truth immediately afterward. Someone had followed her there intentionally. Vanessa DeMarco emerged moments later from the cathedral entrance, surrounded by armed men connected to both federal operations and surviving criminal organizations. Her elegant appearance remained untouched despite months of chaos spreading across the country. Hatred still burned behind her eyes whenever she looked at Sophia. Years of obsession and manipulation had consumed her completely. Vanessa blamed Sophia for Adrian's emotional transformation. She blamed her for the collapse of the empire. She blamed her for the destruction of the life she spent years trying to control. But Adrian no longer looked at Vanessa with anger, only disappointment. That emotional indifference hurt Vanessa more deeply than hatred ever could. The cathedral atmosphere grew suffocating as armed men slowly spread to the ruined aisles beneath flickering candlelight. Snow and ash drifted together through shattered stained glass, while federal helicopters circled somewhere overhead. Everything was collapsing toward one final confrontation. Damien Cross entered the cathedral last. Sophia immediately noticed how confidently he carried himself now. Expensive political influence had transformed him into something far more dangerous than a federal investigator. He represented the exact system Adrian tried destroying. Damien publicly accused Adrian of orchestrating the corruption network himself while pretending to expose it. Armed agents surrounded the cathedral slowly, while cameras outside prepared to broadcast the downfall of America's most feared Mafia king. But Adrian calmly exposed the truth instead. The hidden files beneath the cathedral had already been uploaded through encrypted networks connected to journalists, international investigators, and independent media organizations worldwide. The moment federal agents entered the cathedral perimeter, the files automatically released themselves publicly. The system Damien spent years protecting was already collapsing. News alerts immediately exploded across phones throughout the cathedral. Politicians exposed. Financial records leaked. Trafficking operations connected to government officials revealed publicly. Secret recordings released nationwide. The corruption network was finally burning in full view of the world. Fear spread instantly through Damien's expression for the first time. Not fear of prison. Fear of losing control. Outside the cathedral, sirens multiplied rapidly while news helicopters flooded the skyline above Manhattan. America was watching another empire collapse live. But Adrian looked strangely peaceful. Sophia slowly understood why. He never wanted to survive this war. He only wanted the truth exposed before he disappeared. Vanessa finally snapped emotionally after realizing Adrian sacrificed the empire intentionally rather than protecting it. Years of obsession collapsed into violent rage as she ordered armed men to execute Sophia immediately. Gunfire erupted across the cathedral. The final battle exploded violently beneath the burning candlelight, while shattered glass rained across the stone floors. Federal agents exchanged gunfire with criminal loyalists as panic spread through the collapsing building. Sophia barely escaped falling debris, while Adrian protected her through the chaos once again. But this time something inside Sophia changed completely. Fear no longer controlled her. The frightened woman trapped inside Adrian's private elevator months earlier no longer existed. Too much pain had transformed her. Too many lies had broken apart around her. She finally understood that surviving corruption required more than escaping it. It required confronting it. During the violent chaos, Vanessa attempted shooting Sophia directly near the altar steps, but Adrian intercepted the attack before the shot reached her. The bullet tore through his shoulder instead. For the first time since Sophia met him, Adrian visibly staggered from pain. The sight emotionally shattered her. Because despite everything he had done, Adrian continued sacrificing himself for her repeatedly without hesitation. Meanwhile, Damien attempted escaping the cathedral with remaining federal agents after realizing the leaked evidence had destroyed his political future permanently. But several agents finally turned against him after discovering recordings proving his involvement in witness disappearances and trafficking cover-ups. The powerful investigator who manipulated both criminal empires and government systems for years collapsed beneath the same corruption he once controlled. Vanessa's fate came moments later. While flames spread rapidly across the cathedral walls from overturned candles and gunfire explosions, she became trapped beneath falling debris near the burning altar. Her obsession with power, jealousy, and revenge ultimately destroyed her before anyone else could. The cathedral slowly transformed into an inferno around them. Smoke swallowed the ceiling, while ancient wooden beams collapsed through spreading flames. Sirens screamed outside as federal teams evacuated surviving agents from the burning structure. Yet Adrian refused to leave. Sophia realized why moments later, after discovering explosives hidden beneath sections of the underground vault. Adrian planned to destroy every remaining piece of the corruption network permanently, not for revenge anymore, for closure, for his brother, for Sophia's father, for every victim buried beneath decades of political and criminal greed, and for Sophia herself. The emotional weight of that realization broke something inside her completely, because Adrian Moretti, the man feared across America, no longer wanted power. He wanted peace. Sophia begged him silently with her eyes to escape before the cathedral collapsed entirely. But Adrian simply looked at her with exhausted sadness, as though he already accepted his ending long ago. Then he reached for her hand one final time. That simple gesture carried more emotion than words ever could. The same man who once forced her into a private elevator through fear was now letting her leave freely through trust. The symbolism emotionally devastated Sophia. Outside, federal agents screamed warnings as flames consumed the cathedral roof rapidly. Helicopters circled above while snow melted against burning stone and shattered stained glass. Adrian gently pushed Sophia toward the cathedral exit, while remaining behind near the collapsing altar, because some men spend their entire lives becoming monsters, and some monsters finally chose sacrifice before the end. Sophia escaped the burning cathedral moments before the explosions beneath the underground vault erupted violently through the structure. Fire consumed the ancient building instantly, while collapsing towers disappeared beneath smoke and falling debris. Federal agents surrounded the ruins helplessly as the cathedral burned against the dark winter sky. And while emergency teams searched through the destruction afterward, Sophia stood silently beneath falling snow, realizing one final terrifying truth. Adrian Moretti's body was never recovered from the ruins.